Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mexico Now Festival El Podcast. I'm here today with Coro Acardenchado. Join Coro Acardenchado, the Acardenchado Choir, for a night of freestyle improvisation, body percussion, and amazing vocal techniques. This unique choir was founded by musician Juan Pablo Villa in Mexico City as an homage to the Cardenche song, a traditional a cappella chant for trios from Durango in north-central Mexico. The term Cardenche comes from cardo, thistle, a plant full of thorns that are more painful to remove than to get picked with, and is an allegory of love. Coro Acardenchado is directed by Juan Pablo Villa in collaboration with Maria Emilia Martinez and Leica Mochan, and also hosts guest directors such as Tareke Ortiz and Leonardo Socchi. The group has performed across multiple Mexican theaters and forums, including the renowned International Cervantino Festival and the Day of the Dead Parade in Mexico City. This concert is presented with music of the Americas at America Society. I'm here today with Juan Pablo Villa and Andrea Villela, who are part of the Coro Acardenchado. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much. Very nice to talk to you in this interview, and very excited to share a little bit of what the Coro Acardenchado means and represents.
Thank you. So first of all, I have some fire questions just to get to know you two a little bit better. What are your favorite instruments?
Well, I would have to say the voice, the human voice, so complex and so rich. But I love piano as well. So that would be my favorite instruments.
And my favorite instruments will be also the voice, because it's what I've been training for many years. And I think I love guitars and jaranas and ukuleles that are also very, very rich in sound. And here in Mexico, we use them a lot in many other traditional Mexican music expressions.
What is the sensation you enjoy the most while in community?
Good question. Maybe just feeling my individual in a richer encounter of people. Maybe not feeling alone, and at the same time knowing that I can be isolated in any time, but surrounded by a bunch of people that would stand there for me, or vice versa. I'll stand there for them.
And I think for me, it's the sensation of immersion in other people's energy. So I don't feel that I am like so important, maybe, but I am part of something else that is bigger. That sensation of letting go when you are sounding with more people. Like your voice, it's not the only one, but it's part of something bigger.
That is beautiful. Now, you explore using traditional song and multi-effect processors. What are your favorite things to explore between the old and the new?
I think it's a perfect blend of old time and new times, no, and new era. It's not the only thing I do in my music, so I really enjoy this part where the old traditionals meet with some experimental sounds, and I think it's a way of enrich or transform the old, so it doesn't escape from the memory, so it doesn't get lost in and transform in new sounds and new ways of experimentation, of experimental encounter. And I think it's a beautiful way to keep tradition alive as well.
For me, I think it's something that takes shape over time, and it's a very slow process that starts at some point, meaning encountering in shared places, like the feelings of the harmony between chords and the textures that sometimes is created by instruments in a traditional music, but then it's also found through exploration by the use of different electronic music. That I think it happens in many genres, not only Mexican traditional music, but eventually it's something that suddenly pops out and everybody feels like, oh no, there's a change in tradition. But I think it's something that it's an energy that passes over generation until a gap in generation takes it and owns it and changes it and renews it. So I think it's a much more slower process than we think until we see it happening.
Yeah, that's very true. Change happens slowly and then over time, it seems like. Now, going into the more deeper questions about Coro Acardenchado, how was Coro Acardenchado created and what makes this music so complex and rich in history?
The story of the Acardenchados is once upon a time, my friend Tareke called Juan Manuel Torreblanca and Leo Socchi to make a quartet and sing in a beautiful church in downtown Mexico, and we did. Um, in these videos called Son Pa Llevar, what we did is that we met to make rehearsals and then go to sing this song in this beautiful church in a Cardenche way, which means without a pulse, a tempo, a beat, and with some other qualities, but I'll talk about them later. So we meet to have this rehearsal, and we sang and we record. And so in New York, Claudia Norman saw the video and said, "Hey, why don't you make a repertoire and come here to New York to perform?" And because I was exploring a lot with Cardenche songs, so we worked this together with the quartet, and we began to make our own compositions and to blend traditional songs with our ideas. So we performed in New York. As a quartet, we stand like for 3 years maybe. By that time, I was producing some concerts of the Cardencheros, of the old people, the traditional uh, people that sing these traditional songs called Cardenche songs. It was a celebration of the Canto Cardenche. So we brought these singers of the Comarca Lagunera called Los Cardencheros de Sapiorís. We decided to invite the people to listen to them. You know? And what I did is I began to create a choir because it wouldn't be possible to have the quartet. So I thought maybe the best idea was to bring a choir, to make a choir of nice voices of my friends, of my own students, of my singer friends, etc. I made a choir of about 30 people, including my daughter, and some people like Andrea Villela were there for the first time in a choir, in, shaped this way, singing Cardenche songs. And that's how the Coro Acardenchado was born. That was 7 years ago. So what we did in that concert is to celebrate with the Cardencheros. The Cardencheros were on stage, and the choir sing to them on stage. They were sitting on a nice chairs, looking at the choir. It was very beautiful. It was like a homage, a very very beautiful of this complex and rich tradition.
About the tradition, it's a little bit it's a very old history that there's a lot of research involving anthropological research, ethnomusicological research that has been trying to find or write a little bit more in depth about how this genre was originated in this area of Mexico, because it's a very isolated area that it's surrounded by the Comarca Lagunera. The Comarca Lagunera is the region where these two municipalities, where the tradition is still preserved in some way, and it's a very interesting area, geographically speaking, because you have the desert in one hand, and in the other hand you have the river, for example, and the different species of plants, animals, the sky, and it's a very plain area. So these areas back in 19th century were growing out of the haciendas, the cotton field haciendas. But also in the beginning of the last century, there was a lot of development around agricultural, different varieties of chiles and fruits and things that were grown and sold. So it was a kind of, like we say in Spanish, a vergel. It was a place, a valley that had a lot of economical growth. So there was a lot of migration from people from our surrounding states that arrived there to work as labor, but also, and it's important to say, to be exploited. So this type of gender and everything that speaks about, it's about the hard work life as well. So it's a type of, the lyrics are speaking about how hard can life be, and the little pleasures that you get through love, for example, but also the pain that you get through misfortune or departure or death or breakup or heartbreaking. No, so because of the themes that this music speaks about, it's a type of music that sounds very heartbreaking, or how do you say, like tearing of the soul, and it's sing a cappella. So that's something that makes it even more unique, because it's sing through by three different voices. That one, it's the lowest. That it's called, in the gender, it's called arrastre, and it's mostly the bass voice. Then we have the middle voice, that in the genre it's called primera or fundamental, first or fundamental voice. That it's the most wise voice. It's the one that sings this voice. It's the most knowledge of the three singers. He must know the three voices, how they sound, how they move, and it gives the tone of the song, the pitch of the song. And the third, the most high pitch, it's called contralta or arrequinte sometimes, and it's the voice that gives kind of like the color or the feeling of heartbreaking, because sometimes it's been synced so high that it feels almost like a cry or like a scream. So when you listen to the old recordings of the 70s of the old singers, most of the time these voices, they feel like, sorry?
They're yelling.
They yell when they sing. It's a very upfront voice, very loud voice. And when they sing, they sound like almost like a very rough voice and high pitch. So this combination of these three pitches of voices, it's what creates a very emotional and very connecting sensation that all the listeners, when you hear it for the first time, it gets through your soul somehow. So this is kind of like a little bit of like a general description of the gender.
Well, that's very interesting, and I'll ask more questions about all of the implements of society that it brings and all of the heartbreak that the Cardenche song that it presents to the audience. But first, I want to ask you about the collaborative process, because this is a collaborative project and it has so many voices and ideas. So how do you collaborate, and how does that practice inform the creation of Coro Acardenchado that celebrates individuality in community?
Yes, this is a collaborative project. To begin, we have three directors: Leica Mochan, Maria Emilia Martinez, and myself, Juan Pablo Villa. So, from the beginning, it's a non-traditional choir. I created the choir, and I make some direction. Finally, whenever we need a director in front, it's me. But we prefer to not having a director in front. We make the direction through rehearsals, and so whenever we perform, we try not to make this in front traditional direction. The three of us, we're quite different. So Leica Mochan, she's a super master of making body percussions, and I can work a lot with different extended vocal techniques, while Maria Emilia, she is a super stage girl which perform with a lot of musicians in Mexico and abroad, and she also plays the flute. So with the three of, and we are very good friends since 30 years ago, something like that. So we can manage pretty good the choir, and but the choir, it's a very different in qualities, in the individuality of the persons, of the people that make the choir this special choir, is because we don't look for a rounded voice. We don't look for an equal song, for equal voice for the whole choir. We like that all the voices sound different. We have people coming from different styles or genres, music genres. So we also work with these opportunities of the individuality. That means if they have to use the feet to make percussion, like in the fandango, in the son jarocho. So we bring this together to the choir. If a guy plays the double bass in a band, so we bring the double bass into his voice, so he can make some lines with this bass, but using his own voice. It's a diverse choir, and we like to keep it that way. Our intention is to feel the individuality in the voices, so we don't get lost into this kind of rounded voice in the whole choir. We move a lot on stage, so we also are very open to listen to the members of the choir if they have new ideas to move into the choir, into the on stage. Yeah, so it's also very funny to be in the choir. It's all these individualities finally makes a complex and rich and special, and I would say unique choir, at least in Mexico.
It's really interesting that you use all of the different styles and people's studies and how they relate to music to create a coro that brings its uniqueness to life. So, Andrea, you were telling us about how Acardenchado songs started and all of this history of labor and heartbreak and how they created these songs in this very particular space and time of Mexico. Why would you say it is important to continue this tradition of songs to create music that connects us with our bodies to the past and our ancestors?
I think one of the very important characteristics of the gender itself is the very emotional part that it can give to the listener, and it's a very unique tradition that it's part of other traditions in Mexico, like the son or the son calentano. But the quality of this gender is that it's a cappella and it makes it unique. So there have been a lot of efforts to preserve the tradition from the people in the community, from the government, from different artists around the globe, Mexican artists, musicians, anthropologists, and other people involved. And I think what the vehicle to keep it alive, it's to give it its value in terms of the expression of the feeling that it's giving. So I think that's why it also makes it so easy to connect with, because it's speaking about universal feelings and universal values. We know that all around the globe there's also exploitation, there's heartbreak in individuals. The love theme, it's a theme that it's being used for composition of all genders in the universe. But this particular one, it's expressing it in a very soulful way, but it's also expressing it in a kind of like high uplifting sensation. So the older people from the community is passing away, and it's very important for new generations to first get to know the gender, and second, learn to sing it, because it's a tradition that it's passed through oral learning, which means that nowadays we have all the new technology like platforms of streaming, recordings. We can record from our own cell phones. But back in the day, you would have to learn to sing it by sitting next to a singer and repeatedly singing, singing, singing until you could feel that you make the lyrics and the song itself yours. You own it and you perform it. And that's how we learned to sing it. We were students from the Cardencheros Sapioris, that two of them have passed away, and we only have Don Lupe still alive. And that's how Juan Pablo learned to sing it as well. So we are trying to keep the tradition that way as well. Sometimes we give workshops as well to teach people that it's interested from here, from Mexico City and other different states that are not where the tradition belongs to, but that they find something enrichment for their souls and a need to also learn how to sing it. I think that that's where the connection comes from the shared experience of heartbreak, love, departure, having someone that you love passed away, and you find some comfort through these songs and these lyrics. That's why I think that to highlight this quality in the Cardenche song, it's also going to make it last for more generations. So it's important to have some of the technology added to a learning, but also to preserve the tradition in the ways that it's important.
And I think one of the most important things of the Cardenche songs is that they are beautiful. You don't need to speak in Spanish to understand what the intention of the songs are. And yeah, they are basically beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very complex history, and as you were saying, a very beautiful song that it just hits you right in the soul despite the words or understanding of the words because of the language barrier. And in the way that you perform it, Coro Acardenchado, it's somehow site-specific because it uses the space echoes and the resonance to transform and inform the performance in the moment of the creation. How do you manage to continue holding this same essence while allowing it to transform and evolve?
Our base is the Cardenche songs, but nowadays we transform the songs as the way we want. I had a very, very close relation with the Cardencheros, specifically with Fidel Elizalde, Antonio Valles, and Don Guadalupe Salazar. There's another one that I met, but I couldn't get closer to him, which was Genaro Chavarria. And with the new generation, with Higinio Chavarria, Ofelia Elizalde, they are all related, and they all know the Cardenche songs. As Andrea said, nowadays we have only Don Lupe and the new generation of Higinio and Ofelia. But what I spoke with Fidel, I'm telling you this because I want to get into this point. Fidel told me it's important that you keep singing these songs out of the community. Please don't let the tradition die. You know, and sometimes I spoke to him and say, "Hey Fidel, I want to make this arrangement of this song," and he was always saying, "Please do whatever you need, whatever you like. These songs are from everyone, but especially you can make whatever you want." No, so we've been doing this with the choir as well. Um, as Andrea said, it's a cappella tradition with not a single instrument, but now we make it is very similar to some norteño songs as well. I mean, it's easy to fix these songs into another genres. So sometimes we do this. We make like these crossroads, which we play a little bit with the instruments made with our own voices, and we mix them with the voice with the Cardenche songs. Also, I make some like contemporary ostinatos, and we perform through these ostinatos and other songs, um, as well as we keep some of them into the tradition. We it is I mean we sometimes break the rules or transform the songs into some other songs, but we sing also in the traditional way. In a traditional way, it's a way to say that we keep the melodies, etc. But the traditional way is sung by a trio. So what we do is we sing in a choir.
But we keep the three voices. We also kind of like what you were saying about the spaces. It is very interesting how we try to adapt to whatever space we are performing, and we use the sound. And sometimes, for example, we also do a little bit of sound landscape to emulate also what the desert sounds, or what do the markets in Mexico City sound. So it's not only to sing the lyrics with its words, but also to create kind of like an emotion through landscape, through our voices, and um, it makes it very. Every performance sometimes turns out to be different, even if we are performing sometimes the same program, depending on the audience, depending on the space, and we adjust that. We have also, the directors have also adjusted some of the lyrics in terms of to make them universal. Some lyrics were sing to a woman, for example, and we changed some words to make it, instead of talking about woman, we're talking about love in general. And we have also had an arrangement of a song called Prisionero that in a rehearsal, some of the girls in the choir performed it as just an experiment. And it was such a great feeling of this change that the directors decided to switch it. And the women are the ones that we sing to another women, for example. So we are playing a little bit with that, trying to play with the ideas that were from last century to how we think as a younger generation nowadays, but always keeping with a lot of respect, of course, and trying to keep the aesthetics of the genre.
What we do is that we ask what kind of venue are we going to perform, and we have the plans of of the venue. So we fix, we elaborate, we create um, a, like a kind of show specifically for this space. And so we ask questions like, do we have echo there? Can we walk into the people, with the people, through the people to get on stage? So we ask always what specifications, what specific things does the venue have, so we can create something special for that space.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And it sounds like you really looked and studied um, what the Cardenche song is really about to try to hold that as a tradition and then play around and transform all of the little things that make it, but not the core of it. Really important. And going back a little, um, we were talking about collaboration and how this project is created with a group and it needs different bodies and different voices and different stories and communication and trust between the group. How have you found this also informing the audience to immerse themselves in this community that is in front of them, that they're using the same elements that they hold, that are just breathing bodies?
The concert of the Coro Acardenchado is a hell of a concert. You go through a lot of emotions during the concert, and one of the magical things of the Cardenche songs is that um, they will they will touch deeply. As I told you, even if you don't speak Spanish, it will get very, very deep into your soul, and you will feel what's talking about. You'll feel something. I'm telling you this because I performed a lot of these Cardenche songs abroad, in Asia or Europe or America or South America. And well, in South America they do speak Spanish, but it's so deep. The songs are so deep. So whenever we sing a Cardenche song, the audience automatically get in tune. So now it's easy to get them through body percussion, through joy, through different, or through these markets that Andrea was talking about, the soundscapes of the markets in Mexico City, which are crazy. And you hear a lot of voices going on and a lot of screams and very crazy things. So finally, when you touch the deep feelings of the audience, then it's easy to get them through your show, no? And I think that's the magical thing of the choir and the Cardenche songs. That's why they are so important of the heritage of Mexico and humanity, as a lot of other kind of songs, but specifically in Mexico, the Cardenche songs. No? In our experience, the audience really get touched with these concerts, and it's also because of the dynamics of the concert. Because sometimes we get very deep and very profound with the profound, very deep, very deep with the songs, but suddenly you're in a market in Mexico City, and it's crazy, and you have a lot of rhythm, a lot of percussion, a lot of joy, and yeah, the audience, as you said, begin to breathe with us. No? They get into the mood of what the choir wants to share.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it's very interesting to watch the audience. A lot of people cries, and a lot of people sometimes finds a space for grieving. Somehow, always, a lot of times at the end of the concerts, they approach and they share their experiences. And in Mexico we have this culture that we are very in touch with the death, and we have a very respectful way to see it. and sometimes to celebrate it. But in other places, that is something that you don't talk about, or your feelings sometimes they are pushed very down, because in the everyday life you are required to always be okay, to always be steady, keep on working, and you do not. So in these concerts, there's kind of like a very beautiful space that you give to yourself, or the audience gives to themselves, to just receive and feel like in community, for grieving, for remembering, uh, for feeling connected with their past. No, some generations that have migrated to Mexico City, but their families are from other northern states. Sometimes they say, I remember that song. I know my grandma used to sing it somehow, or she sings something very similar when I was a kid, and I would go to my mom's town or my dad's town, and I will hear this music, and I have forgotten, but I feel like I found it inside me. And they connect, and when they come with their partners or their family, they also have this shared experience of connection with their past, or with a feeling, or with someone that it's gone. So sometimes it's not something that you force a lot, but it's something that happens thanks to the magic of the genre, and our, like, the way that we also give ourselves to the audience, we can say. So we are very, we feel the songs as well.
Yeah, and it's very important for that, for there to be spaces of community and of feeling and of communal grieving, that it's sometimes something that we all hold but need to have a space where we can process it together, enjoy, and all of these beautiful feelings that are also expressed in this coro. Thank you so much for sharing all of this knowledge and everything that the Coro Acardenchado is about. I'm really excited to see you perform at Mexico Now Festival from November 20 to the 24 at the Chelsea Factory in New York City. Thank you so much for being here. Do you have anything else you want to share, social media, where people can find you?
Follow us through Instagram at Coro Acardenchado.
You can listen to our music in streaming platforms as well. You can find us Coro Acardenchado, and you can also listen to our teachers, Cardencheros de Sapioris, also in streaming platforms, and get to know a little bit more about the tradition. We hope to see you all in the Chelsea factory.
Yes. Thank you so much.